Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Sati, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, a senior colleague, pronunciation guru Fahim Bangesh. Assalamualaikum Fahim, how are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam Hajra, and I think it's a wonderful morning.
Yes.
Because I love rainy weather
Yes.
and the weather has been rainy and I'm loving it totally because we thought that the summers are here, but naturally the winters or the spring weather is still here and we are enjoying it totally.
That's very true, Fahim, because I feel Islamabad looks wonderful after the fresh showers because the natural beauty just comes out and it's just clean and it's very green out there. So yesterday we were having this conversation, and I think under the Fahim's tutelage, a lot of us, especially the newcomers, we have benefited from his the pronunciation expertise, because he's really an expert here and he's always correcting us. Obviously, those who are willing to be under his patronage, thank you and Jazakallah khair for always enriching us with our vocabulary and correcting our pronunciation. So we decided that why should not the entire nations and the people in the 46 different countries continue to benefit from his expertise in the pronunciation. So Fahim, what is the word today and how would you like to pronounce it?
All right, so a very commonly mispronounced word, well, I'm going to start with the program with this today. People get confused whether it's schedule, but in the Pakistani pronunciation, schedule. Yes. So the Pakistani pronunciation schedule is no pronunciation. If we talk about American pronunciation, that's going to be schedule. If we talk about the British pronunciation, that's going to be schedule. So schedule or schedule, both of them, but not schedule.
Okay.
Right, so I hope everyone remembers that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, for gracing our morning show with such a wonderful pronunciation, Fahim. I believe that, have you watched the season Crown? Because it has been gracing the Netflix scenes and it is creating quite a stir. I think around the globe. Actually,
I haven't, but now that you've mentioned it, I've been planning on watching it, but all because I watched the trailer and I thought the language was extremely exquisite and wonderful. I thought I'd watch it because of the language, but now that you've mentioned it, could you highlight that for me?
Okay, so The Crown season 6 is coming, and it was recently in the controversy because they have filmed Lady Diana's the accident scenes, and they were a lot of Twitterati, they were up against the producers because they feel that that's very desensational, and that's very sensational of them to put so much details into how
and insensitive perhaps.
Yes, how the accident happened. But having said so, I think the season Crown has invoked a lot of conversations which people have felt have already been closed regarding the monarchy and regarding how much monarchy is associated with the darker history of the colonialism. And obviously I keep mentioning that we were once a colonized people, and how they would label us that dogs and Indians are not allowed, right? This was our status.
I can never forget that.
Obviously, that's what very degrading, and that was very derogatory in the first place. But obviously, a lot of people then say it is not the personal responsibility of the Queen because she is not associated with that. But then there's another debate in which people say that whenever Queen used to address people, or whenever she used to generate the discourses, she would always say in the line of the duty towards the crown, right? So she was always invoke the institution of crown on monarchy. So in that sense, she is responsible because she represented that crown, she represented that monarchy, and she undersaw a lot of from the decolonization to the post-colonial world, and under her reign, I think 20 to 30 countries were decolonized from the British imperial crown. So what do you think about this entire conversation regarding monarchy, and especially there are voices within the Britain who are proclaiming that they want a modern day republic, not a colonial era which has a darker past, a darker history?
Hajra, I think if we get into that debate, the whole time of the program would be consumed.
Okay.
But I definitely would want to have the discussion, and I definitely would want to watch the series because now that you've talked about it, it has invoked a lot of interest in me. So, well, but starting off with our program formally, we talk about news obviously in every program. That's our first thing that we do in the program. So, talking about the news items, well, the US CENTCOM Commander General Michael E. Kurilla apprised that Pakistan's nuclear system is safe and America is satisfied with it. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has also asserted that the misleading speculations about Pakistan's nuclear and the missile program are unfortunate, as stringent, foolproof and multi-layered security safeguards duly testified by International Atomic Energy Agency are in place.
I think, Fahim, there are a lot of conversations regarding our nuclear and missile safety program, and I'm really offended by these conversations as a Pakistani, because I think the only nation on this planet Earth that used the nuclear weapons was not us, Pakistan. That was,
we know, not us, and we know why we have the weapons, and definitely I hope and I wish that we never have to use it, but definitely the speculations have been rebutted, and we know what Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said.
Okay, so moving on to other top story, which is regarding how the National Disaster Management Authority has issued detailed guidelines to the federal and the provincial departments to ensure proper preparedness measures amid the rain, wind, thunderstorm forecast. The NDMA advisory said all the concerned stakeholders were to remain vigilant against possible hazards, and obviously we have seen that it's raining continuously, and last year, Fahim, we have seen how the continuous rain wreaked havoc across the country with massive super floods and gushing water.
I really hope that does not happen, but this is spring season and I think we're supposed to enjoy that, and definitely we hope that we don't get cloudbursts, we hope we don't get the floods, and we hope that the weather remains pleasant for a while at least. The NDMA advisory said that all the concerned stakeholders are to remain vigilant, like you mentioned, Hajra, and the people in at risk or vulnerable areas travelling on roads likely to be damaged by flash flooding must be diverted to alternate routes, and those in low-lying areas must be moved to safer areas. The NDMA advisory has been issued as we are expecting more rain. Now, starting off with our program, with our first segment of the program, we have a very interesting guest with us. I'm sure you're going to love her, because when I got to know about the segment, I was pretty excited, because this is one of the topics that I like to speak about a lot, and Hajra as well, as we were talking. We have with us Miss Uruj Ilyas Bhatti. She's a clinical psychologist. Miss Uruj, welcome to PTV World, welcome to World This Morning, and a very good morning to you.
Thank you so much.
So I think we will start a conversation by addressing the elephant in the room, which is the mental health. And we have seen that how mental illnesses are on the rise across the world, and how social media is exacerbating that problem. Because I think earlier on we were having this conversation, we mentioned that there is an incivility, especially in the debates on the social media, where people are so much polarized and fragmented that they are not ready to listen to the other point of view. And I personally feel this personalization of the algorithm, which is based on our preferences, on our likes, on what we see on the clickbait, this has exacerbated the problem. And at the end of the day, it's a capitalist model. They just want to earn money out of there, but the sort of the negative impacts that is having on the mental illnesses that are really extreme. And I think we need to have a lot of conversations surrounding this elephant in the room. So, Ms. Arooj, obviously effects of social media on mental health, I think they're all the negative effects. I think Fahim and I agree on that. It might have some positive aspects of that, but I think in general, the negative aspects overcome and overpower that. Do you agree with this assertion?
Yeah, definitely I agree with that, and there is a documentary on Netflix about the social dilemma. You might have gone through that. It actually narrates all the facts about the truths of the social media, industry. This is actually a business, and they are using the views and likes so that they can market the different products of various companies. So this is basically a big business behind it, but the effect is having negative on the youngsters, basically because of the filters, and the people are having this Snapchat dysmorphia kind of a disease. And they also go to the plastic surgeons because they want to look like exactly like the filters. So, and people are also having, like the statistics say in America, people are also, doing self-harm. They are just committing suicides even because of feeling so worthless. They don't, they think that they are not looking exactly perfect, like, the Instagram perfect picture. Yeah, exactly. So this is causing real damage to them, to their academic also, and also in their occupational and every area of their, including their relationships with their families.
Because they say that in order to be motivated, you need to have a good self-esteem.
Yes.
And I think people these days, especially the youngsters,
Yes.
the teenagers,
Yes.
their self-esteem is pretty low. Because all they do is comparisons,
Yes.
not just in the achievements, but also how the other person's looking.
Exactly.
They have a bad body image. They're not proud of themselves. They're not confident in themselves, in their own bodies. So do you often see people, do they come for counseling sessions? And if they do, what's the percentage of the people coming in because of the anxiety issues, depression issues?
Yes.
Could you highlight that more?
Yeah, as I mentioned about the social dilemma documentary, it states, the facts about America, that there are around 60% of people who were committing suicide every year because of this thing. And you mentioned about the faces, people want to look good on Instagram. So this is the concept of hourglass figure something, on Instagram. It is very popular that you have to be look like you have big eyes, and you have to look like big lips and everything like that.
Yes.
So in reality, you don't look like that. So that's why it is causing you low self-esteem, as you mentioned, and that is why it is actually causing a big disaster to the youth. And so they are actually going into self-harm and these things.
Exactly, and I would like to jump on a very important point that you mentioned surrounding the peer pressure, and how we very carefully curate our personalities on the social media with lot of filters and that sort of persona that our life is very perfect, right? But obviously that's not the reality out there, and that is inculcating a lot of insecurities across the people. And obviously social media has been called out for its very egoistic sort of representation, and very egoistic sort of personalities, and inflated self of ego which social media is bestowing upon its user, which is very hyperly individualistic, very narcissistic.
And you're very right, Hajra, because I was once reading this comment that I wish that your real life is as good as that you're in social media.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. So I think there are a lot of conversations which are happening on the social media that are carefully curated. They are fake. They are not the real conversations, the actual conversations, right? So how much this peer pressure is sort of unsettling the younger population which is populating the social media, or just the digital users in general. As a clinical psychologist, what is your take on that?
Yeah, exactly. First, I will explain this. What is this peer group pressure? It is actually the people of the same age group which you have. You just hang out with these people. So they put pressure on you that you want to be, like cool. You have to have a cool image. You need to have a, cigarette. And sometimes people also fall into these addictions and these kind of drug abuse just because of peer pressure.
That's
so
true.
In the same way, they also pressurize their peers that you need to have a good girlfriend something, and you need to be having a good relationship. For this they need to look good also. So these things also put pressure on them, and which is very negative for them. And also you mentioned about that the fake lifestyle these influencers are having. Actually they are not having the they are just showing the best pictures. They are showing the best part of their life, their lifestyle, but in the reality their neighbors even don't know them.
Yes.
So when
That's
they move
true.
in, they
That's
actually
true.
their personal relationships are just disaster.
And also, Ruj, we've always seen people coming in with drug problems, coming in with addiction problems, but they say the modern day addiction, the modern day drug is the social media.
That's true.
And it actually causes the addiction, it actually causes that dopamine release, which the other drugs, for example, the cocaine and heroin would do. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, exactly, that's right. You exactly mentioned the right dopamine hormone. So it is actually associated with your incentive, with your reward center of the brain. So people need a big dose of dopamine, which social media gives them, and they only gets them by the number of views and likes they get. So it actually disrupts their brain functioning. They need a lot of dopamine to feel good, because this is actually a feel good sort of hormone. They need to feel happy. So if they don't get the maximum number of likes or views, so they feel depressed. So that's why they do these things like self-harm. They use the blades and they just cut themselves because they feel they are useless.
Yes, that's true. And I think moving forward with our very interesting conversation that is building up here, which is regarding, I think we were having this discussion with Fahim yesterday also about our damaged attention span. And I think the social media has really damaged our attention span because of these short video reels, 1 minute, 1 second video reels. I couldn't recall a lot of things, and I recently felt that is it really my memory is getting so bad, or I feel I'm getting really old because I don't recall a lot of things, right? It's not just that the things or the event that happened in a really distant past that I can't recall. It's just that the thing that happened in the recent past that I can't recall. And I do believe that the social media, our addiction towards these short video messages is because of that, right? So do you believe that, and how can we detox ourselves if we really want to reclaim back that sort of a damaged attention span that we have?
Yeah, you are right about these short video platforms have done lot of harm to our attention span. That's true. So the solution is that, as I mentioned that documentary, The Social Dilemma, it also mentions that you need to have, you need to leave using your cell phones for around half an hour before sleeping. You need to shut your phones off. Okay. You need not use them. So this is the way of you mentioned the detoxification. And the next thing is that you should stop using cell phones while you are in school or something. Okay. So there are some precautions, some restrictions which needs to be put on the children, so that
by the parents. The parents have more responsibility here.
So the parents need to do that first themselves because they are mostly addicted to the social media. What to talk of children? So
because
so go on.
I think Ruj, you would agree, and Hajra, you would also agree that social media has become a requirement. Basically, it's also an addiction. It's also a requirement. If you are not on social media, you're not in.
Exactly.
And if you're not in, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. That's very true.
So how do you cater to that? Because you have to be in, you have to stay in touch with people professionally in your friend circle. I mean, what do you do about that?
Firstly, we need to change this notion, that social media, that we cannot live without social media. It is a necessity, but actually we have become, so much negatively influenced by it that our personal lives have been disturbed by it. So we need to put a balance. We need to put a sheer amount of balance that it is not negatively affecting our life. It is not overtaking our life. And the solution is that we need to have some real life goals. We need to be ambitious about meeting people in person instead of just putting our statuses on WhatsApp and other social media applications.
Right, and I think there's this one point, and I think I had very long conversations with Fahim on this, and he also agreed with me on this point. I feel that a lot of mental illnesses are on the rise. This is because that we are not satiating our spiritual side. And that is why we see that there is a blind race towards the earning lot of money, and you are just fulfilling your physical aspects of the body. You are not nurturing your spiritual aspects of that.
And still there is no satisfaction.
Exactly. And you would often feel that void in your life, and that void causes a lot of depression, lot of anxiety, and especially in the Western world, which are overly capitalist societies, you would find that this is a pertinent problem, and there are a lot of conversations regarding that, and they are adopting a lot of Eastern methodologies to tackle their wellness models, because obviously the materialistic wellness models are collapsing. For example, like meditation, etc. These are all the Eastern therapies which have been brought up in the East. So do you agree with this assertion that we are too busy in the modern capitalist era, I mean, what do you call it, pertaining to our physical sides, and we are not looking after our spiritual side?
Yeah, exactly. It is because of the materialistic mindset that we want to, we are only taking care of our bodies and not actually the soul. So there is a psychologist who wrote, Yasmin Mujahid, who wrote Reclaim Your Heart. Okay. So it is a very good book on the people who want to learn about this spiritual side, how to awaken their spiritual side. Okay. So humans also need that, because it is not just the body, they also have soul. Yes. So they need to cater to the needs of the soul also.
It's a very pertinent question that you asked, Hajra, because according to the latest definition of WHO of health,
yes,
the spiritual side is included now. It's just not the body health that also includes the spiritual health. And I think I have to go through the book that you just mentioned, because definitely whatever comes our way and whatever would tend to improve our lifestyle, our knowledge, I think we should do that.
Yes.
Also, now we were talking about, Hajra, we were talking about short videos, right?
Yes.
It's impacting children very, very badly. We're also watching autism cases increasing in children.
Yes.
It's being diagnosed a lot these days, and mostly because of the social media platforms and short videos. Being a clinical psychologist, your take on that?
Well, autism has some other causes also. It has some genetic and some other causes also, but I don't think that autism is the main outcome of the using, of using social media. The main problem is depression, anxiety, self-harm, and even suicide. These are the things which are the, ultimate cause of using social media.
I actually asked because I know of a child, and a perfectly normal child, always on the phone, never had the desire to talk to someone, and a doctor actually labeled the child as autistic.
I think I can recall one such case in my family too. You very rightly pointed out, because all the time he was watching the Coco Melon, and I think we also know the names of these cartoons because all the time he was on the mobile. And obviously when the child is interacting with the mobile, he's not using all of his senses.
Yes.
He's just using his sense of sight and the hearing, right? And then he doesn't respond to whatever we call that.
He does not respond.
Yes, and that child has also been diagnosed with the autism. I think with the passage of time, when the scientific research comes along, we will see that whether social media is contributing towards that or no. But I do feel that nowadays mother do not put in that much of an effort to make sure that their children have some other activities
because they themselves are on social media.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much, Aruj, for coming on our show and for having this very wonderful insight into the mental illnesses and what is the psychological aspect of that. And I think we will keep having these conversations, because this problem is not going to end anytime sooner.
That's true.
And with that, we will say thank you to her, and we will wrap up with this segment. And after a short break, we have a very interesting segment lined up, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to World This Morning with Fahim and Hajra. And like Hajra was mentioning, we have a very important segment lined up for you.
Exactly. And Fahim, Ramazan is just around the corner, and I particularly like the culture of Ramazan which it brings, because there is a aroma wafting through the streets of the jalebis and pakoras and samosas.
Especially at the time of iftar.
Yes. And there's this general rush where people are rushing towards their home because the iftar time is just near. And having said so, I think there's an element of spirituality which is very much highlighted, especially during the Ramazan.
Spirituality and philanthropy. We see a very increased percentage of philanthropy and spirituality, like you mentioned, Hajra, in the month of Ramazan. And the guests that we have today are, I would say I'm proud to have them in the program, because we should be highlighting such people. We have with us Raja Arsalan Mahmood. Raja Arsalan Mahmood is our colleague. He has been a part of PTV World. He's an engineer. And besides that, he is a major part of Falah-e-Momin, a wonderful organization that they run, in which they do philanthropic work. They distribute food items among the poor people. And the other guests that we have.
And I think they have been doing that for quite some time, for at least 9 years. And you can always see that there is a huge dastarkhan which is laid in front of the PIMS. And I think this is why the spirit of philanthropy, the altruism, which really endears us to the Ramazan, because Ramazan imbibes us with that sort of spirit. But obviously, it should not be restricted to Ramadan alone. It should transcend the month of Holy Ramadan too. But again, it's highlighted more in Ramadan. So we also been joined by Umar Shehzad, who happens to be management procurement. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
First of all, it's such a privilege for us to be here, and thank you so much for this TV channel for inviting us, and it's such an honor for us for being here.
And I think we are also very proud that we are giving voices to such sort of philanthropic activists or actors who have this altruistic tendencies. And I think we were having this conversation earlier on that Pakistan is one of the most philanthropic nations, because that spirit of altruism is always very much evident in Pakistan. And I think in Ramadan it's almost very much visible in the public spaces across the country. So Arsalan, tell us something about your organization. What do you do? And obviously Ramadan is around the corner. So what sort of expectations do you have from your organization?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the generous introduction you guys given.
You deserve it.
Fahim, it actually started off with a bucket of water back some 9 years ago, I guess. We went in the hospital and I looked around the people in pity, and they were rushing for the food, and we just decided to do something in favor of those people. We had a bucket of water till the last glass we distributed, and the moment we gave the last glass, it was feeling like pleasure in ourselves and so satisfying.
Then we decided, I'm sure. Yes.
Then we decided to continue it for the whole Ramadan al-Mubarak, and after that we built a team of around 5 to 7 members at that time. But slowly and gradually the team, the members increased, and today we are having 100 to 150 members.
MashaAllah.
And all of these are volunteers, well educated, and they are serving in other departments as well. But especially in Ramadan, they all gathered up and come up with an idea to how serve the nation, how serve the humanity, and we are doing it for last 9 years. Proudly we can say that.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
amazing,
and,
really.
I just wanted to add more in it, because like in 2013 and in 2014, I guess, one of our very closest friend went to PIMS hospital in emergency situation, and during iftar time, he had a lot of troubles in iftar. So when he came back and he discussed everything, like we should have to do something for the people who are in really emergency. And
actually we did see people there crying for food.
Oh.
And the moment we decided we have to do something for those people. Yes. And it's not only confined to hospital, but we have our road drive and ration distribution as well. And why it is hospital, in hospital there's every kind of people there.
Yes.
There are patients, there are attendants. Attendants are sitting in the corridors and lying down in the scorching heat, and
especially in government hospitals.
Obviously.
Yes.
The main motive behind choosing the government hospital is like what Hajra has mentioned, that in government hospitals there are a lot of people sitting outside, and they came all across the Pakistan.
Yes.
And in hospitals we have a very pretty situation in terms of getting food, and especially in Ramadan one can feel the thirst.
And Hajra, as Iqbal says very beautifully, मैं खुदा के बंदे हजार होंगे, बनों में फिरते हैं मारे मारे, मैं उसका बंदा बनूंगा जिसको खुदा के बंदों से प्यार होगा. And I think hukukul ibad and looking out for people, especially in this beautiful, blessed month, I think this is the least that I think all of us can do.
Exactly.
And brilliantly so that they're doing it voluntarily. Nobody's getting paid for it.
Yes.
And they're doing out of their own will, taking out their times. For example, Arsalan works as an engineer. Umar works as a procurement manager. But they take out their time. I mean, would you and I, or you, would we take out that time to go out and help out people? I think it requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of commitment.
Yes.
Where does that commitment come from, Arsalan?
Fahim, very good question. The commitment that actually we had from is the situation that we faced. One of our friend, as Umar mentioned, was in the hospital, and we went there, and we just went there to look after him, but we saw people there literally crying for food, literally. The commitment and motivation came from there. And then for him, there's a culture of, being shown up in the society. People gave away the ration bags, foods, and they clicked the pictures.
True.
Another motivation came from the idea just to get them help. Do not spoil their dignity.
Yes.
Don't judge them. Don't judge the people. Just go and help them. This is the reason behind all the commitment and motivation. And slowly and gradually, it is like the part of our lives.
Yes.
It became like a very, important and essential part that gave us the true essence of Ramazan al-Mubarak.
That's very true. And Alhamdulillah, you guys have been doing it for the 9 years, and I think it takes a lot of experience to do that, because when you're doing for the first time, you learn a lot, and I think learning is a process that is continuous and it never stops. So since you've been doing it for the 9 years, Umar, so I would like to ask you, what is this time that is you're going to perform differently, or are you adding something new to this edition of this Falah-e Momin Dastarkhan that you are adding?
As Arslan and everybody already mentioned that it's been 9 years, so a lot of people, like around 4 to 500 people, we are arranging iftar for them. So we are not adding anything else, but we are it's pretty much like difficult even for us for arranging for 4 to 500 people.
So and also I would like to ask both of you, how was it the first time when you did it? I mean, obviously not just commitment, it requires a lot of manpower, it requires a lot of resources, I'm sure, because definitely you have to go buy things in a mass amount.
Yes.
So how was it? How did you guys do it?
We didn't know that if we are doing this and it goes in such a level. First of all, for the first day when we did the food distributed among the people, we didn't know this food gonna be less for those 200 to 300 people. Then we decided to held a meeting. We had a meeting, and there we decided we have to share our part as well. We have to hire manpower, hire in terms not on the payment basis. Just voluntarily we were doing that, and suddenly gradually people are.
And here are the pictures, I'm sure everybody can see on their television screens. These are the pictures of the Dastarkhan that the wonderful people like Arsalan and Umar, they contribute in. This is Falah-e Momin Dastarkhan that you can watch on your television screens.
Arsalan, you wanted to jump into the conversation, please continue.
That was a camp last year held, and there were around 400 to 500 people served on daily basis.
Wonderful.
And the food was given to them was up to the mark and the perfect food that one could have.
Okay.
And we ourselves also had the same food at the same place, sitting down on the earth.
Wonderful.
And we had the same water, same like food and everything that we distributed to the people, because people there, they are very assured of the thing that we will get a good food to eat.
Yes, that's very true, and I think this is the altruistic spirit that transcends the Ramazan. So Arsalan, if someone wants to tread into your footpath and they want to emasculate your model, so what sort of lesson would you give to them? Because I'm pretty sure such sort of models have their own sort of challenges and their own sort of planning, and since you've been doing it for the 9 years, you're pretty well experienced in that, right? So if someone wants to follow you, what sort of advice would you like to give?
I would only want to give one advice, that please don't judge people. Just go and help them. Please look around yourself and just go and help them for the sake of Allah Almighty.
Right, and in terms of planning, what sort of advice would you like to give? I mean, for
planning, strategizing,
yes.
How would you?
In terms of planning, I would only want to suggest people who want to do this, just look around yourself. If you feel like you can do to the society anything, you can give society anything good, please don't hesitate, go and just start it. Because the initiative, to take the initiative is a difficult step, but after that everything gets smooth.
Right. So, Umar, if someone wants to volunteer with your organizations, how can that person reach you, and what sort of advice would you like to give to the volunteers out there?
We have a Facebook page,
Okay.
Falahe-e-Momin, and
Okay.
everybody can join us
Okay.
through our Facebook page.
Okay.
We have a contact number over there, and everybody can contact from that number, and even anybody can join at our camp. Like we are already like mentioned that we are arranging a iftar camp at PIMS hospital, so anybody can come there as a volunteer as well. And we
Even for him, there are a lot of calls on daily basis we receive, and there are a lot of requests. People send us to please invite us, and we want to join you.
Really?
Yes, really.
That's
and
wonderful.
And it's been, after 9 years, we can proudly say that today on daily basis, people call us and they inquired us about the donations and funds. Is anything you required?
Yes.
And it feels
So have you started,
very proudful.
So have you started preparing for your, because Ramzan is just around the corner, for the execution of this entire program, because I'm pretty sure it takes a lot of planning to execute such a project on such a large scale.
Yes, Alhamdulillah, we have started our preparations.
Okay. Yes.
Since last month we are having meetings, and we are making the plans, and
Wonderful.
inshallah, hopefully this time we'll execute it even more better.
Right. So if someone wants to volunteer towards your organization or contribute towards you in monetary and non-monetary terms, here's your camera, please go ahead, and what sort of message would you like to give?
I just want to give the message that please do come and help the people. They need us, and please look around yourself. The only thing I request is to please come and join us, and join all other there who are doing the same work for the same cause. We are not here to judge the people. We are just here to help people. Please come and join us.
And also, Umar, I would like to ask, do you also plan on expanding it, perhaps the scope of the whole project beyond Ramzan?
Yes, after Ramzan, we are already giving ration to the peoples. So we are already working on different projects as well. Like in COVID situation, I think we have distributed more than 1,000 ration to the people.
I see.
Like from our own salaries and from our own pockets. Like, and
that's fantastic.
Yes. So we are already doing work on different projects as well, and we are also thinking on a medical camps, arranging medical camps at different places. So we have a different portfolio, but right now in current conditions, we are already focusing on iftar camps, and last time we organized 2 iftar camps at PIMS hospital, and like we'll see where the wind blows and what would be the situation for the sponsors. So we'll
I'm sure you're going to get loads of sponsors, definitely, because
I want
people.
to add over here. It is not only confined to Ramzan camp or Ramzan Dastarkhan. We also had distributed the Eidis. Eidis mean, Eid what children get on the Eid. It's very pleasing for them. And in the COVID times, a lot of people have lost their jobs. We are in so many ration bags. We distributed all those ration bags into the needy families. We searched out. We had a plan. We had a proper search, and then we came onto the decision that those families really need us. And
because Arsalan, I think people need people like you, especially in this era, because Pakistan is undergoing the financial crisis.
Yes.
I think especially those people who cannot beg, who cannot ask for things. I think this is the time that we need to find such people, and we need to help them out, because they won't be able to come out and ask because of their own self-respect.
That's very true, and thank you so much, Arsalan. Thank you so much, Umar, for joining us on the show. And a big shout out to this organization called Falahe-e-Momin, which is on the Facebook by this name. And if anyone wants to contribute in monetary plus non-monetary assistance, they can always get in touch with them. And obviously, by engaging in such sort of activities, you are not just bettering your dunya, but also your deen too, right? So
absolutely, and you don't even have to make a contribution of thousands or millions of rupees. Even a single rupee would do them wonders.
Exactly. And with that, we will say Allah Hafiz to you. Until next time, it's a goodbye and good morning.